good morning. It's Crazy Cheap Chick, and today we're going to make some black bean soup. Now, black bean soup, it's really simple, easy, inexpensive, and nutritious. And I find most people really like it. I'm going to turn the camera around in just a minute and show you how to make it, but I want to tell you a couple of things. To be an expert on anything, it just takes time and experience. And they say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. Well, I passed 10,000 hours probably way back in my 40s. So when I cook, I don't usually measure out things. I just sprinkle in and taste and then maybe add a little bit more. And that's how my mom and grandma cooked. After you get expert at something, you don't really have to follow recipes. I rarely look up a recipe when I make something that I've been making for a long time because, you know, I've pretty much memorized how to do it. And you'll get that way too. But black bean soup, I'm going to show you a couple of hacks on how to do it much simpler than what most recipes call for. And then also in the description of this video, I'm going to put a link to an actual recipe for black bean soup that I think is a really good recipe. So if you need an exact recipe to follow, if you don't feel confident cooking without a recipe, I'm going to put a link to someone else's website that shows how to, that has all the ingredients and the exact measurements. Because as an old country gal, I just don't measure things when I cook. So follow along. We're going to make some black bean soup, and you're going to be amazed by how good it is, how cheap it is, and how nutritious it is. So one of the first things I do is I get everything out or most of the stuff out that I'm going to use in a recipe. And I've kind of cheated here. I've already diced up half an onion. And it was a medium-sized onion. I don't know, that's probably half a cup maybe. And then I diced up about 6 or 7 baby carrots. And I diced up 1 stalk of celery. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute these vegetables in a big pan, in a soup pan. So I'm just using some olive oil I got off a clearance rack, and I have poured kind of a liberal amount into the bottom of the pan, and I am going to pour these vegetables in here. Now I like using these really thin flexible mats because it just makes it really simple. So I've got 3 cans I need to open. I've got some refried beans. I've got just a regular old can of black beans and some vegetable broth. So you could make this vegetable vegetarian if you like. And those vegetables are sauteing. So I'm going to open the can of beans and broth, but I'm also going to put some garlic in with these sauteing vegetables. I'm going to use my garlic press and press about 3 cloves of garlic in with those vegetables. If you don't want to go to that step, you can use just store-bought minced garlic. It doesn't make that big a difference. Just put the garlic in and squeeze. It's that easy. It comes out like that, and you'll have to use a knife to scrape it off. You'll have to take out that peeling before you do the next clove. Now that the vegetables are sauteed, we're going to start dumping in these cans. So first, a can of just black beans. Nothing special about them. And now I've added 1 can of refried beans. Now most black bean recipes call for cooking the beans and then using an immersion blender, putting it into a food processor to get it creamy. Well, I'm a very, very lazy cook. And so what I do is I just used refried beans to get kind of that same creamy texture without all the work. I stirred all that together, and I'm going to add just a little bit of vegetable broth to thin it out. Probably, see, about that much. And I can make it thinner. I mean, you're going to make it the consistency you like. We don't all like things the same way. That's pretty good. Now we're going to start adding some spice to it. Now here is my second hack. If you've never used this Goya bean seasoning, it is so good, so fast, so simple, so cheap, and so easy. So I'm going to add 1 packet into this black bean soup. So I had some kale I'd gotten off the clearance rack. So I took a big handful of it, chopped it up even finer, and threw it into the bean soup also. I'm going to try to sneak some vegetables past the family, and I think I'm going to just add a little bit more vegetable broth. I've probably used half a can. So that's getting to about the consistency I want. And you won't even hardly taste that kale. But you can get all the nutritional benefits out of it. So now I'm going to taste it, but then I'm going to start adding in a few spices. Now don't over spice, but I'm probably going to put just a little bit of cumin. I really like black seed. It has kind of a smoky flavor to it, so I use it pretty liberally. This is just a seasonal that I got off the clearance rack. I may add a little curry powder. I might add a little adobe, or I might add some ground ginger. Actually, I think I have some fresh gingers that I'm going to put in there. Ginger is so good for you, and it's kind of, to me, it tastes kind of sweet. I'm going to add just a little bit of a squeeze of ginger in here, and then I'm going to add some cumin. So I squeezed in it's really probably a couple of squirts of that ginger I added, probably about a teaspoon of cumin. I'm going to taste it now and see how it tastes. Tasting really good. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of curry powder. I'm just going to add a little bit of curry powder. And I think I will go ahead and add just a little bit of this adobe, make it just slightly spicier. Don't want a lot. I didn't think I would have to add salt because that Goya seasoning is probably mostly salt, but to me it tastes like it needs just a little bit of salt, so I'm going to add just a little bit of seasonal. Now, what I'm trying to get across to you is season and taste. Season and taste. I'm going to add just a little bit of this black seed too because it's got such a smoky flavor. It's really beneficial. Now, in some countries, they put this seasoning on the table just like they put salt and pepper. So I've got that in there. I'm going to stir it up and taste it. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so good. Now I'm going to tell you what's going to send it over the top. Just a little tiny bit of sugar. That was a little too much. And there you have it, the finished bowl of soup. It is delicious. I did sprinkle just a little bit of cheese on the top. Just one final note, I had about half a can of vegetable broth. You may be wondering, well, what are you going to do with that? I don't know, but I'll find something to pour it in. And I bought these lids off Amazon that fit most cans perfectly. And so I'm just going to stick it in the refrigerator, and I bet I throw it in something this week. Well, there you have it. I bet you had no idea it was so easy to make black bean soup. A couple of hacks there. I used the refried beans instead of getting out the immersion blender or food processor, because those things take so much work to clean up after them. I'm a lazy cook. I'm really lazy. I don't like to cook. I keep telling everyone I really don't like to cook. And so I use hacks to make good food, fast, easy, cheap, and nutritious. Now, another thing I did in that soup, 1 to 2 tablespoons of sugar makes almost every dish better. That's what my grandma taught me growing up. It doesn't take very much though. You don't want it to be really super sweet. And I used that Goya seasoning. That stuff is amazing. I would buy stock in that company. That seasoning is so good. Anyway, that's how easy it is to make black bean soup. And I made it in 15-20 minutes. I just needed to throw something together for lunch. And you can make it look so pretty if you're having company. Just put some sour cream, sprinkle a little cheese on it, put some slices of avocado on it, and make you look like you're a Michelin chef. I asked my husband, I'm like, well, how was it? And he said 5 stars. Now, to be fair, my husband has never rated anything I cooked less than 4 stars. So I'm not sure he's the best judge, but it was really good. And just remember, taste and season. taste, and season. If my mom was making that soup, she would have left out the cumin because she hates cumin. If my daughter was making that soup, she probably would have put something like Rotel tomatoes in it because she loves everything really spicy. So cook for your own taste. If you want to follow a recipe, I'm going to put a recipe on a link to a recipe on the description of this video, but get some confidence in cooking yourself and figuring out what flavors you like. So that's my advice, and I'll bet that soup didn't cost $3 to make. This is Crazy Cheap Chick. I appreciate your watching all the way to the end. That was so kind of you. Now, if you would just hit that subscribe button.